Exciting episode of Pete for Society. My guest today is a grief advocate, international speaker, and the author of The Art of Grieving, how art and art making help us grieve and live our best lives. The one, the only, Sheila K Collins. Sheila, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So, Sheila, why don't you tell everybody a little bit more about yourself? I know we were talking about this a little bit, but Sheila's got a lot to unpack here for us.
Well, yeah. I was saying to Pete just a minute ago, I am old, so don't get too impressed with all the things I've done because I've had a lot of time to do them. But there's been a lot of trouble too, or a lot of challenge, I guess. And so
Yeah.
that got me. I started out life as a dancer, and then I became a social worker. And then I decided I was really a dancing social worker because I used everything that I knew in theater and dance with my students so that they could be their very best in serving other people as social workers. So that's kind of my getting into the arts and how important arts and our stories, how important our stories are to be able to tell them and not to tell them in too boring of a way or taking too long. So we practice 3-sentence stories. I'll try to be quick with what I say so you don't get too bored. But anyway, it's been a great thing to do. But then I had these things that happened to me that, and we all have things that we would not order off of a menu. If it was on the menu, we would say, thank you very much. I don't want that. And so the first one of those was my youngest son was diagnosed with AIDS. And it was at the point in time when they were just about to solve it, at least as they have to this day. But he was on the drug, the trial, but it did not work for him. So on trials, you're not always getting the thing that turns out to be the right recipe. Yeah. So that was the first really big loss of my life, I suppose I could say. And then 5 years later, our daughter was diagnosed with breast cancer, which is certainly not unusual even to this day. That is almost common, unfortunately, thing. But she turned out to have a rare form. And so even though she did a bone marrow transplant and I was her caregiver for that, she didn't make it.
Man.
And left 3 children behind. But now, this is one of the advantages, Pete, of being old. See, if you live long enough, you see these kids have turned out great. I mean, I know wherever she is proud of them because they have really turned out great.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, though. I mean, that's a lot of loss, so, I mean, it's hard, especially when you have to bury your children before they should bury you, because a lot of people would say, but wow, like, just that alone is just, like, just watching your son go through
Yeah.
struggles of AIDS alone had to be hard, like, there's nothing you could do for him. He's on these trials, you get this hope, you're hoping that something works, and then it's like, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to watch
Well,
because we didn't know enough about it, though,
No, at that time. And there was so much shame about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to keep it secret. We weren't supposed to tell anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
the people at the AIDS Outreach Center, because he wanted to keep his job. And they said, a lot of times people would, if they'd find out about it, you'd get fired. So, I mean, it was really a bad time, a very bad time. And, but that's why, we now know about pandemics. I mean, we've had another one that all of us were in. So I have a lot of respect for pandemics, I'll tell you.
Yeah,
A lot of
especially
respect.
COVID, because COVID brought out a lot of mental health issues for people because they were separated from everybody. And that isolation started highlighting that this is a real concern that we need to talk about. And even today, we still don't talk about it enough. I feel like, with the demand of people that want to be on this show and the conversations that are being had, it's like it's getting better, but it's just not enough, I don't think, because give like the most recent one, the Dallas Cowboys player that ended up taking his own life. That poor kid was 24 years old. Like, he's 24 years old. So, like, my first question when I heard that interview, when the girlfriend said that he had mental health issues, okay, so what were you doing to help him, though? He had lost his mother a year prior to that, and it's just like, for me, because I do this kind of stuff all day, it's like, that was my first question. It's like, what were we doing to help this young man? Because if he was struggling at 24 and he made that decision, like what did we miss that we could have done to help him better? You know what I mean? Like, I'm always looking for the next question is like, always like, what could have we done more to help this person? Maybe we had a conversation sooner. You know what I'm saying?
What could we do differently? So I have a suggestion for that.
Okay.
Because you also mentioned his mother died a year before. So we have got to be better at supporting one another through loss. We have got to get better at talking about it
Exactly.
so that it's not "Oh, I don't wanna bring you down, Pete. I don't wanna I don't wanna bring this up because maybe, you might offend you or you might."
Yeah.
I mean, we can't be so tender with each other. I mean, the fact is people get sick and people die. We're gonna die. Let's
Yeah.
stop pretending that we're not.
Exactly.
So I think part of it is our reaction. In fact, it's interesting. My current book that just came out, when I showed it, the draft to somebody who knows a lot about publishing, the first chapter of the book with deals with COVID and the notion of loss, because grief is a response to loss.
Yeah.
So then we have to recognize loss and we have to not run away from it, but deal with it. And so what she told me was, "Oh, you have to you have to take out all that stuff about the COVID because by the time this book goes through publishing processes, people will be sick of it. They won't want to hear about it. So that means we're not going to get the lessons from it.
Exactly.
We're not going to get the lessons from it if we're all just going to dust off our hands and say, well, we're done with that,
Yeah.
because that's not the way loss works.
You know,
Any kind of
I mean,
loss.
real quick, Sheila, you could apply that to the Holocaust because I met a Holocaust survivor. He had the same message almost. He said, "What? Let's not repeat history," you know. But the same thing is like, let's not forget that this happened, though. Like you were trying to. We're not trying to forget it happened. COVID happened. We can't say it didn't happen. It happened. It affected a lot of us. We lost a lot of people. You know, like why do we have to be so taboo about it? It's like yet again, it's like okay, well, people are tired of hearing about it. Well, maybe that means that we need to talk more about it. Then, if it's irritating you enough that you don't want to talk about it, obviously you're scratching the surface of something there. You know, and it's the same thing you could apply to any kind of like things like, like the epidemic of AIDS, when it came out, everybody like you couldn't talk about these things because everybody associated with homosexuality with it. And it was just like, that's not the case. But everybody had to give it a label for something. And it's just like, it's just crazy, man. To me, it's like, wow, why can't we talk about these things? Suicide's another one of those subjects that fall in that thing. Like people talk about it, people start panicking. Grief is more, I think it's like people are just like, they don't know what to say. It's like sometimes don't say anything.
Well, that's true. That is true. People don't know what to say. And you know what? You don't have to say. You don't have to say anything. What you do is you listen. You ask the person. If I was with this young man, I would say, tell me about your mother.
Exactly.
Tell me about her. Let's bring her in the room. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because if I
let's look
start
at
to,
the good things that she was.
well,
Let's not worry about, so
if I start to tell you about my daughter, you get to know her a little
yeah.
bit. And so that's part of the work that I do.
Yeah.
When I'm working with people, we've all had losses, and the older you are, the more losses you probably had.
Yeah.
And some of them were out of order, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
We like to think, well, let's see, my sister, who was 15 years younger than me, she died 2 years ago. What? I mean, she jumped the line.
Yeah.
But we're all like, what?
Yeah,
What?
exactly.
Her husband came home from work and she was looked like she was having a nap, but she was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and all of us. So we have in our minds, people die in order, I guess,
Right.
and they only die in certain I don't know. That we have to be aware of reality. That's
Exactly.
one of the things. So part of the value of being able to I now call myself a grief advocate, not a grief expert. Nobody's
Yeah.
really an expert, or maybe everybody is. If they really live their lives, we become experts
Exactly.
for what works. But I like the idea of thinking of myself as an advocate because I know that grief and going through that process and looking for the lessons or looking for the person you loved, what were they like? And what
Exactly.
would they, bring them with you in your life? So that love is the thing that does not die. It does not. So if I'm loving my daughter, in some ways, she's still here. I can tell you about her. I think of her often,
Yeah.
especially when something happens in the family. We're reminded of someone. And so I tell people, bring them to the dinner table. Let's all tell the stories we know about that person. Just tell them again. So the younger people, maybe they didn't get to meet them. Maybe they didn't get to know your grandfather.
Yeah.
But what was something that? So I think it helps people to mature, helps people to appreciate.
Yeah.
That's the other piece, I think, to
You know what I
appreciate.
think of though? I think of that movie Sandlot. I know this is gonna sound weird when people hear this, but remember the end of the movie where Benny is talking to Babe Ruth, and Babe Ruth said the heroes die, kid, but legends live forever. It's like let's make them be legendary by talking about them, like let's not forget that they didn't exist. Yes, we lost them unfortunately, but let's remember for them for who they were. Like you said, bring them to the dinner table. let's highlight the greatness that they were, you know? Why not remember people like that, you know? And I think that statement feels so true to everything. They're legendary in everybody's mind, you know? Like they were like, hey, listen, this is who they were. Like any of these folklores that you tell legends are, oh, they're all legendary. Yeah, because they're being remembered like that. Like, why not make everybody feel that way? Talk about them more. Like, you know, not beat around the bush and act like they didn't exist, because that's not low. This isn't Harry Potter and this isn't Lord Voldemort. We're not trying to avoid talking about, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird when people make things weird like that. Cause to me, it's like, let's just talk about it. Me, I'm the person, I'm just like, let's just talk about it. I don't even care. Let's be controversial. Let's do something against the grain that people don't want to do, you know? And I love when you say that you're not an expert, because I'm not an expert either. I'm a mental health advocate. Like I deal with my own issues, but at the same time, I've seen a demand that people want to talk about these things. And that's why I have this show, is just because, like, I don't care how many people listen, but somebody's listening, because I get plenty of emails every day from people that are reaching out to me like, hey, listen, I heard this episode. And that's all I want to hear, is that somebody's listening. Like, somebody out there is going to connect to one of these stories. And that's why I invite people to come share their stories all the time. Like, listen, stories matter. Like, your story may not be the exact same as somebody else's, but something in there is going to connect with somebody like, hey, damn, I don't feel like I'm the only
Well,
person going through this.
well, here's an important fact.
Yes, ma'am.
Whoever's listening, we all have ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
We did not get here out of the head of Zeus. And what I love, some cultures are really wonderful about this. My African American friends, when they have a gathering, they always call on the ancestors and are grateful, because if it wasn't for them,
Exactly.
we would not be here. Now let's be real, right?
Exactly.
So they, and especially if your ancestors had a lot of difficulties, as you know, maybe they were slaves, or maybe they had to get away from their country, you know, I mean, we have all kinds of things, but they survived long enough, at
Yeah.
least, for us to be here. So we have that connection to, and one of our biggest needs really is a feeling of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have this young man you were talking about, he doesn't know that he belongs. He doesn't know who in his line had very difficult situations, and they survived it. They made it through. So there's where you need your heroes.
Right.
They made it through, and so can you. So there can we. And that's the value of story, and passing it on, and the value of celebrating the
Yeah,
gifts
definitely.
we're given.
So I did want to highlight really quick your TED Talk. So for people that don't know what a TED Talk is, you want to explain that to them so they have an idea what that is? I know a lot of people
Right.
hear the term and everybody's like, okay, great, TED Talk. They don't know what that is. So why don't you tell them a little bit, give them a little rundown of what it was? Because I know it is very well noted here that you had a very powerful one too.
Yes, yes. Well, that was, I think they're still going on. In fact, I keep thinking, do I want to do another one? Because now I know more stuff than I didn't know then.
Right.
So, you know, I can do another version. But in my particular case, so what it is that it's very structured. You have 22 minutes. I mean, stopwatch is on, you know, and so it really, you have to get your story out, and what it is that you're wanting, you know. And often these are people we call them thought leaders. And that was always my desire too. A thought leader is somebody who's ahead of the game in terms of some field. And I think for me, because of the issues I had with grief and the fact that I was an artist and a professor, I kind of brought some things together. So I was a likely candidate for doing a TED Talk. And my TED Talk was about life really matters when life is threatened. And so my TED Talk was about accompanying my son, accompanying my best friend, accompanying my daughter. And during those processes, there were many gifts. Now, the way it turned out, not so good, but the actual process. Because when you have this really tough thing, it's kind of like in sports. We see it in sports. I mean, it's terrible. You're not going to win this game. You're way behind, blah, 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 you know, this. But then somehow something happens to the team, something happens. And for me, and for people who do well, you have a team. You have a team. They may not be in the room, but you have a team. And so I would feel sometimes when I was with my daughter like I was just being carried. I could just be here now. I mean, just that's all we gotta do is be here now, and that's kinda hard to do because we just think it's so awful, we wanna run out of the room, but no, no, this is it. So the gifts are in this moment, and, I mean, we had fun. We did a lot of amazing things. We met some amazing people. I met somebody recently from Nigeria, and I said, "Well, I only know one other person from Nigeria." He was really important in our lives because he was the cab driver when we were going back and forth to MD Anderson, and we got to be friends, and he took her to his church, and they all prayed about her. I mean, what are the chances of that? I mean,
Right.
so you get into situations because because life can be really messy and really tough, and then there's things that emerge.
You're right.
There's gifts that emerge. So yeah, so then the TED Talk, you have an audience, and they put this on a national space, so you can still find it,
Right.
the TED Talk.
Definitely.
And so that one is really about going through, accompanying people through, and even through their to the through the death. I mean, even it's awful on one hand, and it's amazing on the other.
I believe it. I believe it had to be a rush, though. But Sheila, let's go ahead and change topics to your book, The Art of Grieving. So, what was the premise of the book? I know you have an art background. You have dance is an art too. For anybody that wants to argue that point, you can dance is art itself. Think about all these different people, different cultures that have these different dances for different reasons. So, what is the premise of the book?
Well, the premise of the book was really my looking back on what helped me. And then I got to say, wait a minute. This is what's been happening people for eons. So wherever your ancestors were, and we don't some of us don't even know, but I'm going to bet they would get together when things were tough. Or they would actually seasonally they would get together in the spring, in the fall, in the summer, and they would dance and they would sing and they would tell stories, and they maybe had drums. So the arts are what creates the community or holds the community, and the community is what holds us. So I just began to look and recognize it's the stories that inspire us.
Hmm.
It's the music. I mean, we're vibratory beings. Somebody makes a gong. I mean, it goes through whether you and I want it to or not. I mean, never mind, it's happening. So that one of the chapters looks at music is the most researched
I love music.
of the arts in terms of its access to your memories. You
Hmm.
hear a song, it takes you right back there. Takes you right back there. And so that's what you want in grief. You want your memories. You want the memories of your loved ones. And then dance, of course, as you mentioned, dance is really embodiment. It's to be in your body is to be in this moment. And you can't remember stuff that you weren't there for. And if
Exactly.
you're off where somewhere else thinking about something else, you're not here. And if you're here, you'll remember, and it becomes part of you.
No, I agree. I agree totally. I resonate heavily with the music one because I'm a big music guy. I'm a
Mhm.
big person. There's a question coming later that will involve music later on in the episode that we'll ask you. But usually that's what it is. I like to make these playlists together just for people like
Mhm.
this is my mental health playlist. So like if I'm having a rough day, these are the songs I'll listen to, and things like that too. And I love it, man. I love music. Me and another guest I had on, we were talking about a 12-year-old girl. Unfortunately, took her life, but he and her made a song called "Weird Hearts." And he teaches them music, but it's a therapeutic way. He's like, listen, you're gonna fail. It's okay. Just go for it. He's like, when you're making a song, he's like, you're just gonna spit it out there. It may not come out right the first time. It may not come out the thousandth time. What you're doing is you're just getting those thoughts out of your head, and you're just kind of going. And Joseph had a unique approach to how he was doing it. Like, he even had therapists that come in that come see him all the time. So, oh, thanks for the therapy session as they're walking out the door, kind of thing. And these guys were just coming to see him. So I love it though. I love art in general. I think architecture is great, dancing is great, art itself is great because it's very inspirational. The things you see, people's thoughts that come out of their minds. So I have a lot of artists in my family. My mom's an artist actually. She taught art in school. She does it now. She does like a sip and
I was
paint kind of
gonna
classes. So
I can show you, one of the things I now have retreats, art of grieving retreats, and we go to a really cool place, and we get connected to some art people that can
heck
help
yeah,
us use art. So one of the things I can show you is mosaics. Mosaics are
yeah,
broken things that you put together. You arrange them in some kind of an interesting or pleasing, arrangement. This is the one I'm showing you is rocks. little rocks or pebbles that I arranged in a little flower like forget me not flower, and they represent each of my siblings. And so I keep this by me. I now have a memorabilia, something that will remind me of them when I look at it.
I love it. It's
And I
awesome.
put a mushroom in the center. I don't know. Mushrooms are supposed to be really good for us in terms of our brains. I don't know, but anyway, that's what people people make something. So when you've lost something, it's wonderful to create something new, whether it's a song, whether it's a piece like I was saying that I created. Now we have something new, and that seems to be our brains really react to that. That what we're realizing now is that music and art and dance and singing all change our brains. Just immediately, we always say brain surgery. You don't have to have brain surgery. Just play the music, play
Yeah.
the drums.
Yeah, because a lot of times, sometimes that song's associated with the memory, and you always think back when first heard that song, or you first saw this piece of art, or these different things, or when you painted this art, the feelings you had in the art, and it was always interesting because I studied art for a while in college, and so I have an art background. My mom was, like I said, my stepmom, she's an artist, so like there's art all around me in this room I'm sitting in right now. I have art here, there, everywhere that she's painted
Mhm.
herself, and things like that too. So it's always been a part of my life, and then music has just always been a big thing for me, just because I always resonated with it. Different songs for different feelings, and you feel different ways when you hear things, and you think of all the artists over the time that we've had, like different people, like most recent one was the guy from Lincoln Park that really resonated with a lot of people. Like he was very open about his struggles. So and when in the end when he left a lasting memory on people, and same thing for Chris Cornell. He was another one that was another big one. A lot of these guys, leave these lasting memories, these songs that live on forever. It's like now once it's out there, just like this show. Like whenever I'm gone, the show will still be here. My children will have this to look forward to and see that. And okay, this is what my dad did with his time. He didn't let his struggles beat him. He turned around and turned into a superpower, and gave people the space they really desperately need to come here to share their stories, because the stories are how we remember a lot of people. They go like a lot of books. That's how a lot of books are made. History books, all these things that we learn. There's always a story behind something.
Well, this is true. Your generation it has the gift of being able to record in
Hmm.
ways, photographs and music. And so you have a lot of treasured. One of the things we do, I have a class online that uses my book. We go through each of the chapters. And so having people share, and often they can share a photograph of the person or maybe several photographs of the person as they tell their stories. So we have a multimedia experience of the person.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
it's not that hard to do, and even if you're not a big techie, you could still do it.
I can do it. If anybody can do it, I can do it, guys. Don't worry. It was a rough at first, so doing this, like you have a lot of things, but it's fun because now you're learning something new. You're adding something new to your repertoire. Like hey, now I do these things,
Mhm.
and then the people I meet, like the people I meet along the way in this show, I've met so many amazing peoples. I have a friend that she does a different approach to her podcast. She runs one called Humanity 2.0, and the way hers is more the videography side because she has a background in these kind of things, and I never would have met her if I never started this show. I have a few other friends, they have other addiction podcasts and things like that too. I got friends in Canada. I've been on TV in Canada. It's crazy to say the things I've accomplished in the year and a half of this show being just in existence. That even she told me that a lot of people know my name more than they know her name, and she was laughing about it. She's like, "Why does your name always pop up?" Is because I always leave a memorable moment with somebody. I'm always telling somebody about somebody I meet. So like like today when I'm done with this, I'm gonna go tell my friend about like, "Hey, listen, you got to meet Sheila," because I think you fit. Because there's always somebody I meet that fits somewhere into a category that that I feel like the conversation will be very interesting for them with you, and things like that too. And everybody always calls me the master networker because I'm just good at when I meet people, I always think of who's the next person I can introduce them to, because as a podcast host, when I'm not referring you to other people, I'm not doing my job, because I feel like we are like ultimate networkers of sorts, because like we always meet somebody else that has a podcast or doing something that this conversation can extend even further, and you can get into deeper sides of the conversation about their thing, and things like that too. So it's been great. Like I said, the fact that we can record these things and these recordings will be there forever. It's like my kids, like we didn't have a great relationship when they were younger, but now they can see like the things I'm doing and the effort I'm taking to make a change for these things. Like I'm advocating for everybody out there that doesn't have a voice. I'm trying to be that person, be that voice to tell you that, we need to talk more about these things. Clearly, we need to talk more about these things. If we look at the statistics of things, it's just crazy. Some of these numbers we look at, it's just like, and then all these subjects are so taboo, but why do they have to be so taboo? Why can't we just have a conversation like you and I are having? We've had no problem so far in this conversation. Nobody got upset. I mean, in some conversations too, it's a lot of these memories, they're very hard to talk about. A lot of times it helps though to get it out, you know? Like with me with
Well,
anxiety, if I was
it's also good to recognize, people have information you didn't
Mhm,
have. So,
exactly.
like, right before my book was coming out, there was a book that came out called Your Brain on Art.
I
So I
love the
thought,
title.
well, first I thought, Pete, I thought, "Oh, somebody's brought my book out. I've taken too long." Because, I mean, there are good ideas in the ether and people pick them up. But then when I saw what it was way better than that. It was that their book is research from John Hopkins on the brain.
Oh, that's so cool.
Well, and now we don't have to go into the brain, we can have imaging of the brain, and the image of the brain can show what is being lit up when you and I are talking, or when you're looking at an image, or when you hear music. Different places light up. And so we're recognizing this power of the arts to transform the way we think, even. So, very exciting time.
You know,
Very
there's a book
excited.
I'm thinking of too. You ever read the one called, what does it say? The pen is mightier than the sword. The idea that the pen is a very powerful thing. Media itself is very powerful. Like you have that sword, the proverbial sword all day, but if you think about it, media goes further. Like newspapers, now we have radio, we have podcasts, we have the internet, you know, all these things have just come from that idea of just, you know, putting the pen to paper and doing something with it, you know, versus the sword, which is
Mhm.
just the, you know, there used to be the other end all, there used to be the way to end everything. But now it's like with media is so far reached now that you could reach more people, you know, and the great thing about podcasts is like there's so many podcasts that have the same topic, you know, and when I tell people when they start podcasting, I'm like, look at, just do yourself. Like, don't listen to everybody else. I mean, you can listen to people, take notes of what they're doing. Maybe there's something you like. Maybe you like the way they do things. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts, different things. And you're just like, I was doing a lot of research, like different things people are doing. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hit record and go for it. And I did that with an earlier show I did. I just hit record. I recorded these wild stories of things I've experienced. And these people were listening to this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess somebody wants to hear this, you know? And then eventually when I got into this topic, I just knew it was the one because when I started posting about it, I kid you not, in the first day, I had 150 responses to people that wanted to be on the show. It was
Mhm.
like not enough time in the world to get y'all here. And now I'm up to like, you know, some days I do 4 to 5 recordings in a day, and people are like, why? Because I enjoy this. It's not even work to me. I love these conversations, just engaging with different people. Because like you said, I can learn something new from every person I go meet, you know, and different things they have to share with me. And then I take that and I share that with other people. I'm like, I'm spreading the knowledge to other people. You know, word of mouth is at work right there still, you know, because every 5
See,
people I tell. So,
you have the kind of brain that is a connector brain. See, people process things differently. Some people don't have that.
mhm.
So some people, are very shy and it's very hard for them. So, but for you, I think you're definitely, we, in the classes that I teach, we talk about that. You're a swing person.
Yeah.
The pattern is swing. You go to one side and go, oh, here's somebody I'd like. You should meet this person. You should meet this person. So you're in definitely the right profession for your
Right.
brain.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yeah. You know, and it's funny because I was listening to a friend's interview the other day and they were like, oh, yeah, you know, my name comes up, of course. Well, you know, he introduced me to these people. And I'm like, I just a lot of people. It's just because I feel like when I meet a lot of people come through me first. Like I did 200 interviews in the first season of the show, which is a lot for a podcaster. If you think about it, that's double the amount what a normal podcaster would do in the first year. Me, I was just like, I got into it and then I just got addicted to these conversations. It's like just more interesting, these conversations. So then I scour the internet now. I even scour the internet now. I reach out to different people. I pitch them to be on the show, you know. And I just made a post in my school committee about, you know, like, about basically new people, like things that you'll hear being a new podcaster. You'll know you're people that don't show up sometimes, you know, and things that I go through. And I feel like I could share the knowledge with them of things that I've gone through. Listen, I went through 200 episodes of this. Let me tell you what I've experienced in these first 200 episodes that you could probably learn, you know. And then everybody always asks me questions about things. And I'm always like, hey, listen, hit me up. I'm up all the time because I work a third shift job right now. It's a full-time job. So I do this full-time and do that full-time as well. So I'm always available at any time. And people like always ask me, Pete, do you sleep? And we already figured that out with Dr. Leah. She I guess gave me a hard time about it. Was no, I don't sleep much. You know, a lot of times,
Well, yeah, and also you might try slowing down a little bit. Just walking a little slower, speaking a little slower,
right?
just
You know,
yeah.
it's that northern that comes out sometimes for people. I'm down here in Texas area. By the way, shit, that's funny you say that because somebody told me that. They said, "You gotta slow down." I said, "It's just the northern in me, sorry," you know? And then what was it? We
Oh,
got this
yes.
conversation about Southern hospitality was the other funny one too, because I say hello to people. I don't say you just say good morning to a lot of people a lot of times. It's just not how it was, you know? And then like, I'm from the north, so down here in Texas, my boss had to explain to me. She goes, "Well, sweetie, let me explain it to you. This is Southern hospitality." I was laughing hysterically as she's telling me this. Because she's like, "You didn't do anything wrong." This guy got upset. He said, like, "Well, I know you're not from Texas." I said, "No, sir, unfortunately, I'm not, that's the great thing about the world. We can live wherever we want. I'm actually originally from the Chicagoland area." And he goes, "I can tell you're not from here." I said, "Okay." I'm like, "Yes, sir." And he got like mad because he's like, "Well, you don't have any Southern hospitality." I was like, "Okay." And like, I was sitting there wondering, and I told my boss about it because I was laughing a little bit. I was like, this is funny interaction I had. And she was like, that's when she went into the whole, "Well, sweetie, this is what we call Southern hospitality on your kind of thing." And I just died laughing because it's so interesting where you
And the
live.
fact and the fact that she called you sweetie, I mean,
Yeah, she knew how to
that's a
approach it to
giveaway too.
hilarious. Yeah, you know that, and then it was a "bless your hearts," the other thing they say a lot. I've
Oh,
learned
bless your
different
heart.
things. Was it the pecan argument with my ex-wife we used to have all the time? She's like, get mad every time I say it wrong. It's not how you say it, because she's like, "You damn Yankees," and everything like that. Because we say things differently. And where I'm from, we say pop instead of soda, and people like to throw them for a loop. And things like that. Like George Carlin. Or no, I mean, George Lopez had that joke about how you go to Jack in the Box and ask for a soda, and the poor guy in the microphone has no idea, kind of thing. And it's like, that's the great thing about the world we live in, though. There's so many different mixtures of people that live from different places, and as I meet different people, it's always interesting to get people, especially people from overseas, because like the way they look at things are differently over there, the way they go about things, the different phrases they use. I'm always interested in learning new words that they're using over there and stuff like that too. And this show's allowed me to meet people as far as Australia. I have a good friend, Catherine. She's out there. She was a podcast, Healing Matters. And when I met her, though, me and her had a great time. It's funny because she was 20 minutes late to the interview, but it was all right. But it was worth it, though. I had a feeling like I'm just going to wait for this person. I feel like something's going to happen. I feel like they're just going to, I just had this feeling that for some reason
Well,
I want to meet this person, and then
we're becoming a global
I
village.
love
We
it.
really are a global village, and that is one of the most wonderful things. When we got shut down from COVID, my co-author said, "Well, we just got to put it online," and I said, "Well, I don't think that's going to work." With my wisdom, I said no, but of course it is. We're still meeting once a week. We get people from everywhere
Yeah.
coming into our class, and the class that we do is from my first book, which is called Still Point.
Yeah.
Still Point. It's related to it's the notion of a playbook for people who care for others so they can have time to breathe and relax.
I think it's an
And
important conversation, though, Sheila, that worrying about the other side of the coin. I think that's great that you have that playbook for those people, because I don't think a lot of people always look at the people that are taking care of these individuals. I think it's a very interesting point of a conversation you have right there.
well, and even as when I get back to the notion of grief, sometimes we have to take time out.
Hmm.
We have to come back to ourselves. The person we love is not in our presence anymore, and we have love that has no place to go. So what I tell people is we bring it back to ourselves,
Right.
because now we're the needy ones. And so we bring it back and we come into community with other people who are also doing that. And so we lean on each other, and then we also learn from each other.
We do.
So that's part of what happens in this class, and we call it radical self-care. And the reason we call it radical is it's not just about getting your nails done or something like that. We're talking really taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that could be like getting a good night's sleep, not staying up half the night,
Right.
like you may have done when you were younger, but hey,
You
or,
know, it was
yeah.
funny though, because when I met Dr. Leah, that's her expertise is sleep area. She works with the FBI and stuff too. So it was interesting, the conversation. She kept giving me a hard time. And I was like, now I prioritize my sleep after meeting her, because she and I had a conversation after we got off too, that we talked a little further, and it was great. She sent me her new book. And that's a great thing about this thing too, is I get new books to read all the time. I was never a big book guy until now. And then I get these new books to read about new fascinating topics and things. I have so many authors that show up on here, and I have a lot of them that send me books, that sign them and things like that too. Or I get advanced copies of them, and it's so
Well,
awesome.
I'd be happy to send you if
Like,
I knew
yes.
how to send them to you.
I'll
So if you
definitely I'll
could
get you an
let me
address,
know.
definitely. I would definitely love to take one of those for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I love reading new books, learning new things, because I like you said, like, I like to teach other people things that I've learned along the way, and I feel
Well,
like
and this self-care book, so when it first came out, it was many, many years ago, and
I love
and
the
so
color.
then I kind of forgot about the book. I mean, and but people that it was helping, it helped them. They said, "You need to redo this book because there's way more caregivers now than there were when you
Yeah.
wrote the book." So, yeah, so we had to come up with we had to come up with a different subtext because there you have to have search terms in your
Mhm.
so Still Point second edition, but is self-care playbook for caregivers to find ease, time to breathe, and reclaim joy.
Yeah.
Because
No, I think, like I said, I think it's an important
here's a
conversation.
fact. Here's a fact. People that take care of other people often die before they do because they go too far. They don't take care of themselves. So
No, I agree
that's
100% with you on that one. And like I said, I think it's great. I think the other side of the conversation is a big growing one now because we worry about everybody else, but we don't worry about ourselves, and a lot of people feel like when they set those boundaries, it's selfish, and it's not. It's you got to take care of yourself because if you can't take care of that yourself, how are you going to take care of that other person? Because and that's what I always tell people too is it's like you got to take care of yourself first because a lot of times if you don't put yourself first, somebody will take advantage of that eventually down the road. God forbid that happens. And all this stuff, and then your health will start declining and all that kind of things. And like I was
yeah.
a person like that, so I could speak from my own experience. I didn't take care of myself too well, and now I am
Uh-huh.
taking care of myself. People notice it. They're like, Pete, I notice you sound better, you look like you're doing better, things like that. In the back scene, the last few months have not been the greatest. Hats off to my friend V. She's listened to a lot of my conversations where I've just unloaded a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it's great when you have those people you can lean on when you need somebody to listen to you. And that's what I
Mhm.
offer to everybody. Anybody that wants to shout out to me and wants to come talk to me, I'll listen to anything you got to say. Like if it's a conversation I can't handle, I will direct you to someone else if it gets to that point, like, and all that kind of stuff. But I tell people too when they start therapy as well. Big thing I advocate is like understand that if they're not meeting your needs, you need to advocate for your own health as well. You need to start advocating for that. Like when you go to the doctor nowadays, pay attention to what they're giving you because you don't know the side effects and things that they're giving you. Like yes, they are trying to help you, but at the same time, you can tell them no, I don't like that. I don't want to do that.
So here's one of my favorite songs. We get by with the help of my friends. We get by with the help of our friends. Good message.
Right.
Good message.
Speaking of songs, okay, so we're at the part of the episode. We're going to ask you the question that was music related that I told you about early on. Okay, so Sheila, my question to you, and this comes from my friend that runs a podcast, the shit that goes on in her heads. I actually stole this from her, thanks to my friend Gretchen. Okay, so the question to you is that if your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be?
Well, I think I must have grabbed that from your brain before you gave it to me because that's what was coming to me was that song. So that's one. I have a number, but I think that notion of see, we think that we're alone and that we have to do it ourselves. I mean, what is this? I mean, no. I mean, come on, get over yourself.
Right?
The reality is there's nothing really important or good in this world that was done by yourself. I'm sorry. I mean, even if it was something you did, you still had people that inspired you, people that were praying for you, people that, carried your bags, whatever. And we come into the world pretty helpless. Let's remember that.
Yeah, true, true.
Some animals come in, they're ready to go. We're not. We're not. So part of it is we kind of have to kind of get over we take the lessons from our early life,
Yeah,
but also then, we have some perhaps wounds or, that we have to work through a little bit because everybody's pretty fragile at times.
yeah,
I like the notion that we're all the ages we've ever been in
that's
a
true.
way.
That's true.
So something can happen and it just hits my 5-year-old. I got oh, that's the 5-year-old. We know who that person is. She's still here, And so that's one of the ideas I think in mental health
Yeah,
that we're not just who you see right here in front of you or who you hear right now, but we're all those other people. And some of those things are helping us and some of those things, well, even the things that were hard, we learned from them and we got stronger.
yeah.
So that's theory on that anyway, but
Yeah, no, I've been adopting a new theory I've thought about today, and I put a post about this. Is like, what if your trauma actually made you into something greater? Like, had I not gone through what I went through as a kid, I don't know if I'd be doing this show now and making as much difference as I am now,
Mhm,
and think
mhm.
about it. And I was like, instead of throwing blame on everybody, I'm gonna adopt this new thought process I've been thinking about. It's like just thanking them, and then they don't have to know why. Just tell them thank you. You don't even have to explain to the person why, but they without them knowingly, they turned you into a superpower doing whatever you're doing. Like I said, if I had not gone through what I've gone through all my life to this point, I don't think this show would even exist. Like I wouldn't got to meet all the nice, cool people I met. I wouldn't get to hang out with the people I've met. I wouldn't got to do all the things I've gotten to do and all the other great things I've been doing and all the things I'm planning on doing without this one event that happened. Now I could sit here and be upset about it all my life, or I could take it and take it to my advantage and turn it into something powerful, which I'm doing now because, with this podcast, I'm reaching so many people in so many different countries and the email responses and everything else I get and all these other things I hear and people mentioning my name. It's just like, all I'm doing is just pushing for the conversation to be heard. And even at that, I'm still making a difference in the world because I'm making sure people understand that, like, hey, listen, we may say we talk about this enough, but are we really? Because based on the demand of this show, I'm out to march with people. And when I bulk record these episodes, so like Mondays and Tuesdays, usually when I record, I've got like 5 or 6 on Tuesdays I usually do. So that's 5 or 6 people I'm talking to over this whole all the way to March now that I want to be on this show that want to talk to me about different things. Other people I've met that are telling other people to come talk to me, and it's great because, it means that I'm doing something that's making a difference because people are like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy's doing something. And every time I go somewhere, someone mentions my name. Hey, I heard you do a podcast. And I've had random people come up to me, Sheila, where I work, that came up to me and said, hey, listen, I heard your show. I love what you're doing. And I've never met these people before in my life. I've never who they
Right.
were. And it was crazy though, but it's like, wow, okay, well, someone suggested it to me. So I always
Well,
ask them too, like, how do you hear it?
some of what you're talking about breaks the taboo.
Mm-hmm.
It gives permission. It gives permission.
Mm-hmm.
So when I perform my book, I get my improv troupe to, I'll read a little bit from my book, a little story, a little something, a little snippet. And then my improv troupe, they will perform
I love it.
using the improv forms that we practice. They would tell their stories that relate to my story because in some ways there's only really one story. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're born, we have all these troubles, we do well, we don't do so well, we have failures. It's all, I mean, if you stand back far enough, there's
Yeah.
only one story.
Right.
So we always say the more personal, the more universal.
Definitely.
The more personal, the more
I
universal.
agree. Sheila, I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you a question. And the most important reason I started this podcast is that if you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, when I ask you this question, I mean anything that you see like in your day-to-day life, you just want people to stop believing. It can be grief related, anything that you want to touch on. What would you say that one thing would be?
In relation to
Anything like just in general, mental health, grief, whatever you feel like someone needs to stop believing, like something you see on a daily basis, you turn on the TV or on the internet and you just like, or you hear somebody say something, you're just like, can you just stop believing that? That's not real anymore. What would you say that would be?
Well, probably there's many things, but I think if you get it down to it, we're not alone.
Exactly.
We're not. I mean, we feel alone at times, and sometimes we feel misunderstood or picked on. Sometimes I've felt picked on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even by some of my relatives. They don't like certain things I do, trying to change me. I don't like it. So, but yeah, we're not alone. And that, to go really deep into that, that makes a lot of difference because then even if you're somebody that it's hard for you to reach out, if you do reach out, you're going to have a blessing and you're going to be a blessing. See, I'll give you an example. My daughter, she was going through all the stuff that she was going through. She had these 3 young kids. So the neighbors are delivering food. I mean, they're, giving the kids rides to their sports events, everything. Her husband said, we don't need this kind of help. I mean, we can handle this. I mean, we shouldn't be bothering people with this. So here's what she said to him. Bill, do you know how good we feel when we do for other people? You know that feeling you have? We're giving that to them. We're giving that to them because they want to do something. And when you face some of these things like cancers and all that, depression, and it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
When you face that stuff, it's very hard. But if you can give something to someone else, then there's that good feeling that you have. So that's what we're giving to people when we let them help us, when we reach out to them.
Exactly. Well, Sheila, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. Before we wrap up, do you want to let everybody know where they can find you? They can come check out your classes. You're offering a lot of really cool classes, I'm hearing. Where can everybody find them?
Well, yes, I have a website that is my name, and it's SHEILA, and it's .com, and then I have an email address which is Gmail. But I also, on my website, there's videos that you can see. So you can see some of the little snippets of things that we've done. And I'd love to hear from people. And I
Definitely.
also write on the Substack is the platform. It's the platform for writers. And I've just been on it about 8 months. So I'm with the really good writers and I'm trying to, better myself here.
Right. That sounds awesome, though. Definitely, guys. Definitely go check out our website, check out our Substack. Sheila, once again, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I've had a great time with this
Great, Pete.
conversation. I absolutely loved having you. So thank you so much for being here.
All right. You have a wonderful day and wonderful holidays.
Right. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, guys. Well, with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety, guys. You know where to find me. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing absolutely to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do to save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety signing off saying, don't ask how your day today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?
So if I ever get wrong, don't break my neck. It's a sign of respect, that's a knife for death. But never dive, the price of checks. I got my integrity and my